Brampton City Council. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Huron and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem, to be followed by a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. All members of council are present today except for Councillor Fertini, who is attending to his mother who is sick in Italy, and we send Councillor Fertini our best. Members of council, there are a few agenda changes identified on the package in front of you. I'll ask the city clerk to review the changes for today's agenda since its publication last Thursday.
Mayor Brown, members of council, members of staff, and the public watching or attending today, these are the changes for today's agenda. Two items were distributed electronically and posted online with the published agenda this past Monday. The first is item 6.1, a briefing report from the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer regarding various government relations matters. And secondly, a report 9.2 from the City Clerk's Office regarding housekeeping changes to the Administrative Monetary Penalty System, bylaw, and Screening Officer and Hearing Officer bylaw. As well, in regard to today's published agenda, there is an added delegation identified as 7.2 regarding a discussion on Neighborhood Watch, and that relates to item 17.2 on today's agenda. Delegation 7.2 is from Fazal Khan from Brampton Focus regarding Neighborhood Watch. Those are the changes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other additions, changes, or deletions to the agenda? I know I have two additions. I'll pull it up. I have one there. I'll pull it up. Way on the back there. As many of you know, that I've been hoping to have a Brampton marathon, a charity half marathon like Mississauga does, and we're now at the point we believe the necessary components are there, and we're heading into a time crunch now to make it feasible for this year. So if we could add that discussion item. It is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Santos and Palashi. The second one relates to supporting the LGBTQ2 community and whether we participate in the International Pride Parade in the City of Toronto. And that is moved by Councillor Santos as well. Seconded by Councillor Santos.
Mr. Mayor, those will be proposed items 17.3 and 17.4.
And it would require 2/3 because they were from Monday, which is past the deadline. Are there any other additions before we seek the two-thirds? Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment to add to the in-camera session a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And we have approval from the city solicitor to add this into enclosed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that would be proposed item 21.7.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add a discussion item on today's agenda about planning applicant delegations to the public in the public portion of planning meetings.
Okay, and Councillor Singh.
I would like to add a discussion on UPass,
Okay.
the public transit.
Do we have support, two-thirds, to add those for those additions? Okay, seeing two-thirds, that is approved. And that was,
For you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Paleshi's added item that has been approved is 17.5, and Councillor Singh's added item, which has been approved, is 17.6 on today's agenda.
so this was approved, so the agenda for the regular council meeting May 8, 2019 be approved as published and circulated and amended. That was moved, as note, by Councillor Willens and Bowman. Yes, Councillor Paleshi.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the clerk, the added item 21.7 sounded like it may be two separate items. Can I get clarification on that added item?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is one closed session item, but it has two reasons under the Municipal Act for the exemption, one being a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, and the other being a matter that may be subject to negotiations.
Okay, but discussing the same item.
It is
Thank you,
one
Mr.
item.
Mayor.
Okay, before we get started with the rest of today's agenda, our CEO, Joseph Perderi, would like to take a moment to introduce a new member of the city's senior leadership team.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, I am extremely delighted to introduce our new Commissioner of Planning and Development Services, Mr. Richard Forward. He comes to us with both a blend of private sector experience as well as nearly 3 decades of municipal experience overseeing planning services, building services, growth and infrastructure in a exponentially growing municipality. We couldn't be more pleased to have him here with us to focus us, drive us, and facilitate positive change and fostering stronger relationships with our stakeholders and our development community, and bring focus and structure to our planning and development team. So really delighted to have him here, and welcome.
Thank you, Joe, and welcome, Richard. Councillor Paleshi said good luck. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. We're now ready to move to the next item of public business on today's council agenda. We have the following council minutes before us today. Minutes, City Council regular meeting April 24th, 2019. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Willens. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 4, consent agenda. The items listed with an asterisk on the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial. The consent motion is to adopt this matter on today's agenda without the need for a separate discussion on the item unless a member requests a separate discussion. Does any member wish to add an item or remove an item from the consented motion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion from Councillor Willen, seconded by Councillor Medeiros, to approve the consent motion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is item 5.1, announcement regarding National Public Works Week, May 21st to May 24th. Mike Donnelly, Manager of Construction, Public Works and Engineering, and Chair of the National Public Works Week 2019, is here today for this announcement. Welcome, Mike.
Just need a moment to assemble the team. All right, good morning, Mayor Brown, councilors. I'm Mike Donnelly, Manager of Construction here at the city. But I'm here today in a different role. For the second year, I'm here as Chair of the city's National Public Works Week Committee. For those that don't know, this is an annual celebration of our Public Works team and the great work we do to keep Brampton moving. This year's event runs from May 21st through to the 24th. Our celebrations have been recognized many times by both Ontario and the Canadian Public Works Associations. Both groups have specifically commented on the efforts we put into reaching out to Brampton's students, from kindergarten to college. An important part of that outreach is our annual poster contest. Every year, we ask local students from grades 1 through 3 to draw a picture of what Public Works means to them. And we're happy to have this year's winner here with us today, Hermeet Singh Munde, who's a grade 2 student from Ray Lawson Public School. You can see his winning artwork on the t-shirts that we provided you here today, and it's also being used on promotional pieces, and it'll be wrapped around one of our trucks for the duration of the week. So congratulations, Hermeet. As Public Works employees, we're really proud of the work we do. It lets us have some fun as we share our work with colleagues and residents. This celebration kicks off Tuesday, May 21st at 9 a.m. with a flag-raising ceremony here at City Hall. The highlight for staff is always the bus pull challenge on Wellington Street that starts at 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 23rd. It's open to all staff and councilors, so we hope to see you all there. We've given each of you a copy of the event schedule as well, so you can see what else is happening through the week, and feel free to join us. Thank you again for this opportunity of having us here today, and for your ongoing support for this celebration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Basante.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank you, Mike, for coming here today with your team. A lot of people don't think a lot about how works and public works impact our daily lives. When, if you allow me just to wax poetic for a second, in terms of the history and the heritage of public works, the earliest great public works that were ever built are the aqueducts that were built in the ancient world. These water systems brought health-preserving and life-saving water to cities and allowed the earliest civilizations to grow and prosper. When you think about Roman roads and the impact that those roads had on allowing those cities to flourish from an economic standpoint and also from a cultural exchange standpoint. And when you think about how public works impacts us today, from the moment you get up in the morning, whether you're turning on a light switch or turning on a tap, walking out onto the street, whether it's on a sidewalk on a road, public works impacts every facet of our lives. And so this council, we want to thank you and all of the public works professionals that work day to day to make our lives better. The single organizing principle of any municipality is to make the life of its residents better. And so we salute you, we salute what you do. Everything that you do really is on an epic scale, and we thank you for all of the work that you do to make our lives and the lives of the people of this city better. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Just before we leave, is there any way of getting you for a photo?
Yeah.
Don't know what this-
Councillor Willens, before we...
Thank you, Mike. You've come a long way since we first met. Met Mike when he was starting with Public Works, and he was walking up McLaughlin Road with a white hard hat on. I yelled at him, told him to get over here. I wasn't happy with the construction that was going on. Died, but because of some flaw in the rules, we didn't get to go to the finals. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it again. It was a great day, and it does bring awareness to the public out there. So congratulations to all your staff. And I'm just wondering why Mr. Gasper's not down here joining you folks up there. But anyhow, we'll talk about that later. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
We'll join for a photo. Okay.
And current crimes taking place against Tamils in Sri Lanka, and also allow the Tamil community to begin its healing process. On behalf of the diaspora, Tamils living in Canada and around the world, we like to take this opportunity to truly acknowledge and express our gratitude for the undeniable support and we have received from Mayor Patrick Brown. We hope for his continued friendship and support in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Moana. We also have David Rajaratnam and Leopold Jo. I'd like to say a quick word, and I know everyone from council's well aware of their association. They have one of the best turnouts at their weekly meeting, and thank you for joining us today.
Honorable Mayor and councillors, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the full support that you are giving for the Brampton Tamil seniors. In fact, I was here a few weeks back. As all of you all know, as Mohan also explained, what has happened in Sri Lanka, what's going on in Sri Lanka. The latest thing that affected especially the Christians, especially on Easter Sunday, where we all were about to celebrate Easter. Very unfortunate, about 250 people lost their lives. And especially that took place in 3 churches. I could say the biggest churches in Sri Lanka. One was in the capital, one was in the adjoining capital Negombo, other one was in the Batticaloa. And all in these churches, the masses are held in different times for the Tamil community, for the other communities at different times. If you look back, what has happened, all the 3 bombing that took place at the time when the Tamil community mass was going on. That itself shows that this was a planned and activity that has took place against the Tamils. So I like to thank the mayor and the councillors for bringing this motion, this proclamation, because we are going to have this May 18th in remembrance of that. So on behalf of the Tamil community and especially our Tamil seniors, I'd like to thank you all for the support. Thank you.
Thank you, David and Leopold. Bennett, would you like to, from the Brampton Tamil Association?
Vanakkam. On behalf of the Canadian Tamils, the Brampton Tamil Association and the Tamil Memorial Foundation jointly would like to thank His Worship Mayor Patrick Brown, the Brampton City Council, and the staff and the people of Brampton for proclaiming May 18th as Tamil Genocide Remembrance Day. This is an important milestone in the Tamil Canadians' history. Thank you for the understanding. Thank you for understanding our pain and standing with us in our continued fight to find justice for Tamils. As we are nearing the 10-year anniversary of 2009 Mullivaikkal massacre, when thousands of innocent Tamils perished their lives at the hands of Sri Lankan military, this proclamation provides a glimpse of hope that one day the international community would join hands with Tamils around the world to find justice for war crimes and human rights violations committed by the successive Sri Lankan governments since the independence from the British in 1948. It would be hard to find a single Tamil who has not lost a loved one during the last 4 decades of war. Each of us carry an enormous amount of pain in our hearts. City of Brampton's proclamation is a big statement to Tamil community in Canada and has set a precedent for other cities to follow suit. We sincerely hope such initiatives will send a strong message to the Sri Lankan government to find justice through international justice system and provide meaningful reconciliation and peace. From the bottom of our heart, along with fellow Tamil members of our city, we thank you for so much for understanding our cause and being with us along the way. We look forward to work with the Council in the future to find permanent peace in our hearts and in our homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bennett. I would note that last week, the City of Toronto did a motion just like the one that was in Brampton, and the motion that was first done in Brampton has now been replicated in a number of other cities, but it's a source of pride that we were the first to stand in solidarity with the Tamil community on this remembrance. And as I watched it covered in Toronto with Mayor John Tory last week, it made me very proud to think that that ball of remembrance, that starting point, happened in the city of Brampton. Councillor Vicente has an important point for the community that he just wanted to mention.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank you for your leadership on this file. I know that this is very important to the members of the Tamil community. We have a very vibrant Tamil community here in the city of Brampton, and just a shout out to the tremendous work that they do to reach out to everyone here in the city through their work at Carabram. The Elam Pavilion is one of the most vibrant and most well-attended pavilions at Carabram, and I just want to invite all the residents of Brampton, if you want to learn more about Tamil heritage, Tamil history, which goes back tens of thousands of years, to visit the Elam Pavilion this year at Carabram, which will be taking place July 14th, 15th, and 16th. And keep up the good work, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
And that's a great point that Councillor Vicente makes, is that understanding that journey to Canada and the history the community's been through is great for the broader community to learn about. You know, sometimes it's through television and movies that you learn that issues get popularized in the public consciousness. I remember with the Hotel Rwanda, that genocide, it was through a Hollywood movie that a lot of people started to pay attention to it. There was a Channel 4 documentary done in the UK on a major British television station that really got this issue in the public consciousness in the United Kingdom. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in this journey to Canada and the devastation that took place to look up that Channel 4 documentary. You can find it online, and maybe we can even have it played at Carabram, but it's a wonderful summary of the adversity that was faced, and gives a great understanding of what happened. So I'm going to invite members of the community that are here to join us as we present this proclamation. I see a number of community leaders here. You're welcome to join us, and any member of council that would like to join as well. But before we do, we have one more speaker. Councillor Singh.
Yeah, just wanted to get on the board since a large portion of the Tamil community lives in mine and Councillor Dillon's wards, and on top of that, the Tamil Pavilion and also at Soccer Center. And so on behalf of both of myself and Councillor Dillon, I want to thank you for your leadership on this. The Tamil community is extremely vibrant. They run a lot of language schools, the Tamil Pavilion. They're extremely active in civic engagement, and we're proud to have them. And the issue of the Tamil genocide is, one that's important to both of us. And hopefully this proclamation helps with the healing process and, helps, with the community's engagement and advocacy on getting this recognized at an international level. Thank you.
You guys' culture. We sold your spices. We opened up. Globalization started with the Root India.
மிஸ்ஸஸாக வெளியில் இன்னொரு மீட்டிங் இருக்கு போவோம். சரி, சந்தோஷங்க.
Members of the Tamil community, members of council, for that temporary break to present the proclamation. And we do have photos from the city of Brampton, which we'll share with the community. Our next item is government relations matters. Materials were distributed electronically to council on Monday and have been posted on the city's website. Lowell Rubenvaughn, Office of the CEO, is here to respond to any questions from council. Do any members have questions regarding the information provided? Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, Lowell. For FCM, can you give us a quick rundown on what our plan is? Just because it's coming up very quickly, and then I have a suggestion.
Sure. Through the mayor, I'll start kind of at the end of the presentation. I do hope that I can provide council with a little bit of an update on Bill 108 as it relates to the More Housing Plan. But as it relates to FCM, so FCM is taking place in Quebec City, May 30th to June 2nd. I know that a number of our councillors is registered to attend. From a staff perspective, what we're doing behind the scenes is preparing a number of briefing notes as it relates to transit, housing, community safety, cybersecurity, flood mitigation, and environmental climate change mitigation adaptation. So these are ones that came up during the term of council priorities session, as well as through our Vision 2040 document. So just trying to make sure that we are very concisely trying to package this information so it's something that we can provide to you in advance of the conference. During FCM, it's slightly different than the Association of Municipalities of Ontario's, where AMO, generally there's opportunities for municipalities to do 15-minute meetings with various ministers, deputy ministers, etc. FCM is slightly different, where the fact is that they don't have that. But what FCM does provide is an opportunity to speak with a number of elected officials. Generally, each of the federal party leaders attend and provide speeches. Given that this is an election year, I suspect that this will be no different. Generally, there's a lot of parliamentary secretaries that attend. There's also a lot of minister staff and other senior officials who do attend this conference. So for us, it's more of a networking opportunity. So to ensure that council, when you do go and you do bump into all these individuals, you can have each briefing note will have kind of like an elevator pitch. So like here is, like if you have like 30 seconds with somebody, here is the key messages, and then followed by some background details. So our hope is to have that packaged to you probably about a week and a half prior to the FCM conference.
Great. And then we will have a briefing. So those councillors who are attending will have a briefing before we head out. But I think that because it's an election year, we need to be a bit aggressive, both at FCM as well as at AMO. Brampton is known to be a swing area for all three parties, for all three major parties, to be frank. And we have a long list of asks, and I think we should be putting some pressure on the four leaders of the feds. So I'm wondering if we can just go ahead and book a meeting with the four leaders, if we can, even just a request to sit down and meet with them as a group. And then the other thing I'm wondering is if we can prepare a marketing piece, so a brochure that essentially summarizes what's amazing about Brampton, because there's a lot of stuff that we can showcase about our city, as well as the different things that we have been doing in this new term and our various requests from the federal government, or from all levels of government, quite frankly. And so if we have that piece, in addition to our 30-second elevator speech when we are lobbying various MPs and candidates who will be there, we can give them the brochure and leave them with that brochure. So I'm wondering if we could do that. If that requires a motion, I'm happy to bring it forward. Otherwise, if we could take that as direction, that would be great.
Through the mayor, I think we can take that probably as direction. First thing I'd like to do is just chat with Stratcom, who we're working with, just to see what materials that we can pull together. The conference is, in a couple of weeks, so something that we can pull together, ideally by the time we have the briefing session with those who are attending, and happy to share that with you. So
perfect. And then we could also use that same material for AMO as well.
We view it as kind of the bridging. So everything we're doing is building towards AMO, and then also obviously the federal election, and then various other advocacy initiatives throughout.
Great. And then one final thing is that when Lowell, Councillor Vicente, and I sat down to meet just last week about FCM, we talked about how we can get involved at FCM, and there are a number of different committees that we can join in order to have a stronger voice for Brampton. One of the committees I'm actually interested in is the conference agenda committee, because I think that we have so many good examples from best practices for the city that we should be showcasing at conferences like FCM. So I'd like to encourage council colleagues to join some of these committees so we can have a stronger voice at these various conferences. Thanks, Lowell.
Thank you, Councillor Santos, for referencing that. I do think there are opportunities for the city of Brampton when we play leadership roles in these organizations. The FCM is even getting a direct grant from the federal government to work with municipalities on some of their green initiatives, and so I do think it's advantageous for the city of Brampton to have these relationships. As you know, last week I was at the FCM's conference on affordable housing with big city mayors in Vancouver, and looking at ways in which we can tap into other sources of revenue to help achieve the goals that we have in city building. FCM will only it happens once a year, but I think it's particularly important when it's an election year, because Rowena is right, all the party leaders will be there trying to seek support, and I think if we can have a collective lobbying effort on our priorities, that will be helpful. AMO comes up in August, and that will be important too. I understand Councillor Dillon and Councillor Santos have shown an interest in getting more involved in these organizations, and I think that is a great initiative, and I think we should all rally behind that, and I hope that you are successful. Councillor Singh.
Yeah, just had a quick question for, I remember for the April 24th town hall, we did a breakdown of the responses of what people's position was.
Through the mayor, you're referring to the telephone town hall related to the regional government review, yeah?
And will we get one for the Saturday, the one that happened on Saturday?
Through the mayor, so if you're referring to the in-person town hall,
yes.
We didn't do any polling, but what we are going to do, we did provide surveys, so we're going to be rolling up all the survey results into the package that we've been doing, because we've been having an online poll for the last few weeks.
Perfect, okay.
And then also the results of the memo was included in a memo that was circulated to council last week and presented.
Yeah, no, I know the last week ones. I was following up on the Saturdays. If we're gonna, so we can expect that.
Yeah, so through the mayor, we'll probably end up doing a summary of the town hall as part of probably a report in the future.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I understand the process is clear for FCM, but how you can run for a board or a committee, it would be helpful if you could do a little bit of research on how we could do the same at AMO, and maybe look for opportunities in which Councillor Santos, who has expressed an interest, could play, where we could nominate her for something as well. And so if you could do some research on that, I think that's an important organization for us to be actively involved in.
And through the mayor, just one point on FCM is, if any member who is attending and interested in getting involved at the board level at FCM, the deadline for the submission is May 17th. There is a requirement for a council endorsed resolution, so I leave that, there's still a few days, so again, I leave that up for this council to make that determination. We'll definitely follow up on AMO. Just really quickly, I do think that it's important just to give a very quick overview of a pretty significant piece of legislation that was introduced last week by the province. It's in relation to their More Homes, More Choice, Ontario's Housing Supply Action Plan. This one is very important. This one comes up at council quite a bit. We all know that affordable housing, rental housing in particular, is a priority for us. This is why I'm also grateful that our new Commissioner of Planning and Development Services is on board, so hopefully he can get on board with this as well. The focus of this is really on the rental market. As Mayor Brown mentioned, he attended last week's Big City Mayors Caucus, the Urban Institute Forum. So really what I want to say about here is, while it's focused on the affordable housing, there's a lot of pieces of legislation that this touches. It's about 13, 14 pieces of legislation. There's very limited time for consultation on it. So we just wanted to today we were hoping to get council's direction to be able to provide comments to the province. Just the way the timing works out, we don't have a council before the June 2nd deadline, or June 1st deadline. So what we've done is we've highlighted a number of the consultations that are open on the registry. In particular is, from a DC perspective, just doing an initial review of the proposed changes. We're waiting for the subsequent regulations. There could be a substantial cost to the municipality, so we want to make sure that we have time to do our due diligence and fully understand the full cost of this. There are changes to the LPAT in terms of the the LPAT process. There's changes to the Ontario Heritage Act, which may not seem like a big deal, but there is actually a lot of implications that if this legislation goes forward as is, there could be some downloading to the municipal sector. So again, we really have to understand what those changes are and their impacts to the municipality. And then there's some changes to the Places to Grow Act. So saying all this, I'm not going to go through all the technical stuff because we're still trying to understand all the technical stuff, in particular the direct impacts to the municipalities. AMO has also provided some initial analysis that we included as part of this package, but today we're hoping to get a resolution passed so that enables staff to go forward, provide a draft comments, and then come back to or at least Committee of Council on the 29th with a draft submission. Then hopefully based on that we can submit directly to the province thereafter.
We have Councillor Bowman with a question.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Lowell, thank you very much for covering that off. I listened to the changes that were made when they were made. In fact, I emailed you in the morning, said, can we discuss this before it happens? They mentioned the 5 pillars, especially for the housing, but safety and security is not one of their 5 pillars, surprisingly enough. So for our submission back to them, I would still love to see something in writing that gives more power of entry based on good evidence that there's illegal activity in the building or in the second unit or third or fourth, whatever it happens to be. They've not done that. As some of you know, I wrote a letter to Mr. Ford personally earlier. I've had no response from him or the MPPs on this issue. So if a normal everyday person, someone who wasn't really involved, was listening when they made those announcements, the indication that I would have taken from their notes is anybody's free to go out and build whatever they want, wherever they want, in their garage or basement, starting today, or starting whenever the act actually passes. And that's simply not the case. I think the provincial government, in opening these guidelines, it's great. We need more affordable housing. There's no question about that. And we need a variety of styles of housing. Basement apartments are good as long as they're legal, they're registered, they're inspected, and they're safe. But I think the provincial government needs to also indicate in their legislation that all the rules and legislations and the bylaws of each municipality have to be followed, including registration of all these units. And I think that should be especially made clear to the real estate industry as well, who are selling homes with legal or illegal secondary units in them. So if we've got a way of putting that forward to the provincial government in our recommendations, I would appreciate that.
Through the mayor, thank you very much for the comments. We can definitely take that back. There's a little internal group that's meeting this Friday, so we could definitely take that back. And I would open up the same point to all councillors, similar to what we've done on previous consultations. If there's any specific comments that you'd like to see in a proposed submission, please forward that on to me, and then we can make sure that we can discuss it and try to address it if it's feasible within the in the submission.
Thanks, Lowell.
Okay, so we have anything additional, Lowell? Okay, so we have 2 motions. Moved by Councillor Santos, second by Councillor Medeiros, that the briefing report from the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer to the Council meeting of May 8, 2019, Government Relations Matters be received. All those in favor? Motion carries. We also have a motion moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Williams. The staff be authorized to make submissions to the province regarding Bill 108, More Homes, More Choice Act 2019, prior to the June 1st, 2019 deadline, including proposed modifications. Bill 108, Schedule 3, 11, and 12. The staff report back to the Committee of Council meeting of May 29, 2019 with the proposed city submissions. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is delegations. Today we have a presentation from staff regarding the Certificate of Recognition Core Update. Jane Holmes, Director of Capital Works, is here to make the presentation. We also have related staff information report, item 9.3, for council's consideration after the presentation. Welcome, Jane.
Good morning.
Councilor Vicente, you wanted to ask a question before we start?
Just like to request to give Jane additional time.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much.
All in support of that?
Great,
Jane.
thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thanks for having me today. As this is National Safety Week, we thought it would be appropriate to come back to council and just give an update on where we are with our Certificate of Recognition or CORE initiative in Public Works and Engineering. You'll recall that when we first started looking at this initiative, we realized that the city of Brampton has a huge capacity to grow over the next 25 years. In fact, there's going to be billions of dollars worth of construction that's going to be happening in our city that we're going to be asking vendors to do on our behalf. And the question was, well, how will we manage the risk associated with that construction? When we looked at our current tender documents, we ask our vendors to be in compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act as it applies to the constructor. We don't have currently a formal contractor safety program, and many of our bids are typically awarded on low price alone. So what is CORE? Well, CORE is a comprehensive health and safety audit tool that is accredited with an accredited certification that's granted by the Infrastructure Health and Safety Association. And what it does is it can certify all employers in health and safety management systems through a structured audit process. Any employers can get CORE. Most companies that are interested in getting CORE are in construction because that's where a lot of the risk lies. So by implementing CORE, what we are doing is we are asking our constructors to demonstrate that they are actually in compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act and that they have audited systems in place to promote compliance with all the regulations. So why would we do this? Safety is our priority at the City of Brampton. When we hire constructors, we are putting the safety of our staff and our residents in the hands of the people that we hire. And that's important to us. Our reputational risk is also at stake. Whenever there's an accident or whenever you hear of something happening or an incident on a site, usually they don't mention the contractor's name. It's usually a City of Brampton project. It levels the playing field, so if we're asking all of our bidders to be CORE certified, what we are saying is that you can't save costs by not having a robust health and safety system. And it won't cost the city any time or any money. All we have to do is ask for it from our vendors. So in February 2017, Council did endorse the implementation of CORE for our vendors in accordance with this schedule. As of June the 1st, 2019, any contracts valued over $25 million and above required our vendors to be CORE certified. On January 1st, 2020, that threshold will drop to $10 million, and as of right now, January 1st, 2021, all vendors doing construction projects will require to be CORE certified. We heard a lot of questions about CORE. We did a year of review just to look and see if this was going to be suitable for the City of Brampton, if this is where we wanted to, the direction that we wanted to go in. One of the questions that we did hear back from the vendors all the time when we were presenting to vendors and telling them that this was our intention was, why wouldn't the City of Brampton become CORE certified yourself? So if it is so great, City of Brampton, why don't you do it? So we started to look at it. We understood right away that it would gain us credibility, that we were going to be walking the talk, that we weren't going to be asking our vendors to do something that we weren't willing to do ourselves. We understood also that Public Works would be a good pilot. We do self-perform a lot of the work that our contractors perform. And it would send a strong message that Brampton makes the safety of their employees a priority. So it's hard to tell our employees that we care about them if you're not going to take steps to ensure, to the best of your ability, to make sure that they make it home to their loved ones every night. And it also provided an opportunity for us to be a leader. So we were the first municipality to declare that we were going to pursue CORE for ourselves. So for the last year and a half, we have been working hard on making sure that our systems are in place. There's 19 elements to CORE, as you can see in our report, so it's quite extensive, and the depth that they go to for each of those different areas. Some areas are bigger than others. Elements 2 and 9, for instance, to do with hazard analysis and workplace inspections, really do require you to have processes in place for about a year. So those are the ones we concentrated on first, just prioritizing all the work that we had to do. And we continue to work on those as we keep going this year. To date, we've had almost 1,000 hours of additional training. That's the training in addition to what we normally would have. And at this point, as part of the CORE initiative, we are doing approximately 60 workplace inspections every month to ensure every place that we are working is as safe as it can possibly be. There was a separate joint health and safety committee that was established for public works and engineering. We know that happened throughout the city, that all the different departments now have their own safety committee. One of the key important elements of CORE is communication. I have to emphasize that this is not a health and safety initiative. You can't just go to your health and safety guy to get this done. This requires the participation and commitment of everybody at all levels in your organization. So we have been very proactive in making sure that everybody knows what CORE is all about and what the expectations are and what the objectives and targets are as we go through this program. It is important to us that you can see in red that we had decided at the leadership table that we were going to make a CORE associated goal as part of everybody's performance management agreement. Every single person who has a performance management plan in public works and engineering has a goal associated with CORE that has tasks associated with it. So we are going to make everybody accountable to get us to our goal. So this is just a picture of our CORE ad hoc team. We have a group of representatives that represent different divisions throughout public works and engineering. We have really cool t-shirts if anybody's interested. But we do have a chance to go out to where we have staff gatherings, and a lot of interest is generated by staff on what CORE means, what their responsibilities are, and what training is available for them. And I go to a lot of presentations from other buyers because we are doing a lot of lessons learned and finding out how they are managing their CORE process. One of the presentations was by George Bell from Metrolinx. So you can imagine that Metrolinx has a massive amount of construction that is coming their way and a lot of risk associated with that in the next few years. And one of the things that he said that resonated with me is that safety is not for wimps. So when you think about safety and you start talking about safety to most people, you know, their eyes start to glaze over a little bit. A lot of the things that this team is doing is trying to implement a more structured process around workplace inspections, about getting our SOPs and procedures up to date. There's a lot more paperwork, which some may push back and say, this seems like a lot of work. Why are we doing this? Because we haven't had anything bad happen. We're good. What I would counter with that is when we started looking at our accident and lost time rates for public works and engineering, they were higher than they should be for Schedule II employers. That's not unusual for a public works department because we do work that's inherently risky. But there's certainly some improvement that has to be made. So I just want to acknowledge the team that goes out there and goes ahead and tries to implement these because they do get a bit of pushback. What I would counter with, if anybody says we don't need this, we're good the way we are, I would counter that we are lucky, and lucky is not the same as good. Luck runs out, and these are the people. I just want to acknowledge all the hard work that they do because in the end, when we want to be able, I mean, CORE is not a magic wand. It's not going to get rid of all the hazards that we encounter every day in our daily work lives, but you want to make sure that the chances are that you have the best possibility of going home to your loved ones safe every night. And that's what these people do. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we have a few questions. Councillor Vicente.
Thank you. Jane, who is it that issues the certificate of recognition to the contractors that work under the city?
it gets certified through the Infrastructure Health and Safety Association.
Okay, and as you mentioned in your comments, one of the questions is if we're expecting those companies that are working for the city to build or to work and do works at the city, why is the city itself also not core certified? If we begin with a pilot program in works, is the plan to eventually move that out to every single department? Because, you know, at the end of the day, the one expectation of every worker when they leave home at the beginning of every day is to make it back home safe.
That's right. So when we came to council in 2017, that was one of the suggestions that were put forward. At the time, going through CORE is, it's an experience. Even though when we're looking at the initial audit questions and you're looking at the things that are required to become CORE certified, initially you think, well, we do that, we do all these things, this is going to be easy. CORE requires you to demonstrate that you're doing it, and that's the difference. So where we landed is that at Public Works and Engineering, we were going to go through it first. I think there's a lot of things, even in the past year and a half, that we might have done a little bit differently. When we were talking about, yes, we want all the city to become CORE certified, we just want the opportunity to be able to go through it and provide some lessons learned, so it streamlines the process a little bit for other departments. So we expect that probably in the next year, probably in 2020 sometime, we will start doing some of the auditing to see where we are. We would come back to council and report on our progress. But with that, I think we would come armed with information that might make it easier for other departments to go through.
Thank you, because I believe that if an organization expects its contractors to hold to a higher standard, I believe that you have to walk the talk and hold to that standard yourself. That's right. And so if we believe that safety is top priority in every aspect of what the city does, I believe that we ourselves need to hold us to a higher standard, and I welcome this report, and I'd be happy to move item 9.3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Willens.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jane. I know that I was very supportive of this when you first brought it last term of council. I know that there's been very little pushback from the larger firms. I guess they more or less expect it, but I know as Councilor Gillespie or Councilor Vicente mentioned that we should be CORE certified if we want them to go through the processes. But with respect to the smaller firms, I know under the 10 million there is 2021 proposed. Is that time frame, is that adjustable? Because I know that some of the smaller firms, like you say, it's a cost or it's the inconvenience of doing the CORE. But having talked to the gentleman from IHSA, it's relatively easy to get CORE certified, and there's a lot of courses that they do offer that are minimal cost. Will we be providing information for some of these smaller vendors that do apply? Like, I'm even thinking, looking at the ones that are well under the 10 million. Will we have the information for them available? Say, here's who you contact through IHSA, so that it makes it not any easier, but it makes it easier the information and more available information that they'll be able to work on.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, a couple of things on that, Councilor Willens. So part of the reason why we picked the timing that we did was so that the vendor community was aware that this is where we were going. It gives them ample time to go and get CORE certified. Okay. So those vendors that are below, those contracts that are below $10 million, when we announced in 2017, essentially they had 4 years to get CORE certified. If somebody can't get CORE certified in 4 years, I would wonder why we're doing business with them. But that being said, we understand that with the smaller organizations, you do need resources to be able to do this. You do need health and safety, someone experienced in health and safety, somebody who's knowledgeable about it, and you need somebody to compile all the information so that it's accessible. What we've heard from some of the smaller vendors is that you need resources to be able to do that. And in talking to the IHSA, they've heard that, and what they do is they've provided workshops and courses specifically for small businesses to help them get there. So to concentrate on the regulatory stuff first, because I'll just remind council that CORE really does, all it's doing is ask you to demonstrate that you're in compliance with the Ontario Health and Safety Regulation, and you should be doing that anyway. But what they do is they do provide some courses and support in order for those smaller companies to get through. When we were looking through, at the time when we were looking at our actual vendor list in 2017, most of the vendors that were 10 million above, even 5 million above, were already CORE certified or working to get CORE certified. What we expect to hear is that those vendors that are looking at those smaller contracts, it might take them a bit more time to get there. So part of the reason why we chose that implementation schedule is it matched City of Toronto's exactly.
Okay.
And they are 2 years ahead of us. So when we go and have those buyer forums, we're always talking about lessons learned, how it's going. They have a similar market to us, but just on a bigger scale. We will take any information and lessons learned and feedback from their experience, and we are able to adjust that schedule any way we want. So any way you want to implement CORE, it's up to the city. I would like to stay as close as we can to the implementation of that schedule, because when we start sliding things around, it gives the impression that it's not really that important, we're not going to stick to it. But we don't want our market to shrink too much either. And we want to make sure that we do give our vendors the best opportunity they can to do business with us. And they do want to do business with us. What I did hear from the IHSA actually on last week also was that when they start putting in, somebody had suggested a CORE Light, and there was a huge pushback from those smaller companies who already have CORE certified to say, no, don't do that. You have to maintain the integrity of the CORE certification. So as you know, the courses at IHSA are very reasonable. They're hundreds of dollars. Sometimes they're free. There's lots of online support for them. And yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on the market. But to answer your question, after all that, is yes, we do have the ability at the end to adjust it if we want to make sure that our market stays viable.
Okay, because looking through through that, I guess it's the Bible that I got.
Oh, you did read the book.
at the reverse vendor show. It's not, any jobs that was, I think, around 5 people on the job, you have to have somebody that's workplace certified anyway.
Right.
So it makes some sense. I believe Toronto's the only one that's fully CORE certified, aren't they? The other municipality, or is there other municipalities?
CORE certified themselves?
Yeah, well, that have worked towards CORE.
They're working toward, City of Toronto themselves are not working towards CORE.
They're not, okay.
They're not. So we were the first.
We're the first.
I think the town of Milton are also following our lead. And I think I've had calls from other municipalities who are asking how it's going.
Okay.
Because they were also facing the same pushback from the vendor community to say, if you're asking us to do it, why aren't you? So City of Toronto has not at this point committed to getting CORE certified themselves, but they're getting to the point now where they should be very close to all their vendors required to be CORE certified. And they're actually not just doing construction, they're doing everybody. So whether you're in maintenance or whether you're in consulting, they're asking everybody to be CORE certified.
Okay. So we're leading by example. So I wonder if it's possible to get any feedback from Toronto where they've asked all their vendors to be CORE certified. If there's any coalition between deadlines on jobs, meeting the deadlines, the efficiency of the job, of the work, the quality of the work, because I think it ties hand in hand. So I think technically if you have a contractor that's willing to get CORE certified, chances are they're probably a more reputable contractor to do the work. So I wonder if there's any, that way we might be able to shorten that list based on performance.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of touch points during the year with different buyers to see how things are going, and we're really interested in how Toronto's experience is going. What we've heard so far, Councillor Willens, is that they actually haven't seen some of the fears about what prices are going to go up, it's going to shrink our market. That hasn't materialized. And what they have found is that not only has all those fears not come to fruition, the jobs that they have now, their construction jobs, they're well organized. it doesn't mean to say that all the issues go away, but they just seem to run a lot smoother. And so there's not a lot of pushback or not as much pushback when an incident happens on site, because now vendors understand that's not a reason to hide anything, that's an opportunity to make things better.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Seeing no other comments, thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
We have a motion moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Williams. The staff presentation of Jane Holmes, Director of Capital Works, Public Works Engineering, to the council meeting May 8th be received, and a report from Jane Holmes, Director of Capital Works Engineering, to the council meeting on May 8th for the certificate of recognition be received. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. We have an added delegation from Neighborhood Watch, and let me say a few background comments on this before that we come up with the presentation. Many of you know Neighborhood Watch has been doing work in our community for quite a time now, understanding that public safety is very topical for our residents, and that there is a myriad of tools to use when it comes to ensuring a safe community. We have the police resources, but having grassroots engagement is important. They've undertaken a pilot project in parts of the city, but they have essentially run out of the runway where they can do it on their own without a partnership from the city, and I thought it would be appropriate to hear from Neighborhood Watch on where they are and where they'd like to go if they have a partnership with the city of Brampton. So on that note, Neighborhood Watch.
Good evening. Good evening. Wait a minute. Good afternoon. Good
Don's a
morning,
little
councillors
nervous.
and mayor. My name is Don McLeod. This is Fazal Khan. We're both from Brampton Focus and Neighborhood Watch. Fazal will be doing the delegation in regards to the Neighborhood Watch. There's another one in regards to Brampton Focus, and I'll be doing that one. You want me to operate this line?
I got the clip.
All right.
So before we start, I just want to introduce a few of our board members. We have Michael Giovanni, who everybody knows from Boys and Girls Club of Peel. We have Carla Bailey, who is now doing some community work, not community work, her position has changed her to doing youth work in the Malton area. We have Cheryl Costello, who's in charge of our Harmonize program, which is our diversity and inclusion program. And then we have everybody's favorite CP24 spokesperson, Nikki Cedroni, who's in charge on our board of the Neighborhood Watch program.
Chair of the board.
And then up top, we also have a couple of our returning summer students. We have Haral Patel, returning from the University of Western Ontario. And then we have Paranavan Kathir Gamanathan, who's returning from the University of Guelph. And I got Paranavan's name right. So let me just start off. We kicked off the Neighborhood Watch Brampton program in January 2017 after about 6 months of research and program development. We started with the goal to be Canada's safest city. And while we are a relatively safe city, it often doesn't feel that way to residents. Without any promotion of our program, we have 3,500 plus registered households and over 50 Neighborhood Watch groups. We are struggling to meet the demand. We aspire for our program to be about building better neighborhoods, places in the city where residents are engaged and care about their surroundings. We then build on top of that with crime prevention education and ongoing communication. Occasionally, we get involved in helping with specific social crises, most recently dealing with violence against some of our youth residents. Success of the program has literally kept me up at night. I know that residents want more help. They want a year-round program. They want violence addressed, and as you know, Neighborhood Watch program specifically addresses property crimes. And as we all know, cyber crimes are a growing threat. There are many good social programs and services that unfortunately nobody knows about. There is so much opportunity to inform and connect residents with great programs both in the city and at the region. Neighborhood Watch Brampton is currently in a sustain mode, meaning we now have to circle back with residents and groups who have already come on board. We need to ensure all of our watch groups are engaged and active. I think of the Snellgrove community as the model neighborhood which was started by Nikki. They are engaged and have residents that will band together when needed. This is what makes a great neighborhood, not just the number of people that like a post on social media. We would love to build out the program as we envision it. This requires partnerships with all levels of government. To be honest, to date, we have only seen the federal government step up with funding for summer students. This year, we're getting 25 summer students from the federal government. I know many of you ran during the last election on a platform to address crime in the city. We were paying attention. I can't think of a better way to address crime and involve residents than by helping them build better neighborhoods.
So I'll address the Brampton Focus issue of this because this Neighborhood Watch falls under Brampton Focus. We started Brampton Focus in 2014. In 2016, we incorporated into a nonprofit organization with bylaws, constitutions, and everything else. Our main focus has always been to engage residents on issues, concerns, and topics that further the development of a prosperous and livable city. Recognizing the rapidly changing landscape of media, we have developed capabilities that establish media, especially in responding to community demands for hyperlocal, personalized, interactive video content. By providing a local-based media service and platform, we have assisted individuals, community groups, and organizations to raise their profiles, causes, events, and general awareness in the community. The list of our accomplishments continues to grow as more and more groups and organizations reach out to us on a regular basis. We have partnered with, actually, Algoma University contacted us recently and wanted to do a presentation to the council. That was our video that we had them, or did for them. We've done some recently for Brampton Library, Beaux-Arts, Bubble of Love, Parental Alienation. Brampton Soccer reached out to us as well. Refugee Girls Worldwide, which is an organization just started by Feliz Osmir. Toastmasters, Culture Fest, Turner Fenton Secondary, just to name a few. We're also excited that the incoming Executive Artistic Director and the Cultural Services team has already proactively reached out to us directly, so we look forward to talking to him as well. Our four main platforms continue to have content and engagement because of a dedicated volunteer team that's provided thousands of hours of their time to help advance the profile of our city, some of which are behind us right now. We've never shied away from taking on new challenges to reach our objectives. And we're excited to be working in partnership with the federal government to, to ensure that seniors have a platform as well. We have talked to Ruby Sohota's being instrumental in making sure that the senior town halls, 7 which we are planning throughout the region, to make sure the seniors have a platform and voice their concerns. So those are 7 live town halls that are going to be happening over the next 6 months. Obviously, summer students, 25 of them. It's like Faz is in charge of that because basically it's trying to herd cats on a regular basis. One of the reasons why we started Brampton Focus, which I'm already asked on a regular basis, is we started it because Brampton was a black hole. Between Toronto, Mississauga, and Hamilton, there was really nothing. There was not a lot of community engagement. There was not a lot of focus on what was happening in Brampton in regards to so many organizations that do good in the city. And one of the reasons that we tried to encourage many of the organizations to break down the walls and have us incorporate it into their, make sure their message got through. And some of them have, some of them haven't, but there's plenty of opportunity. And we also love what we do. 350 videos that we've done in the last year. 350, that's almost 1 a day. Sometimes we do 4 a day. This is all from an organization with all volunteers. We all have jobs, we all have things to do. We make the time to do it because we want to make sure that the city of Brampton has an opportunity to showcase so many different organizations and causes in the city, and that's one of the reasons why we do it. So we are looking forward to having the ability to be able to work as a partnership, because there are many opportunities within Brampton to showcase, and we get lost in the shuffle between Toronto, Mississauga, and the rest of the GTA. So that is the end of my presentation in regards to Brampton Focus.
So I imagine there'll be a number of questions. In terms of Brampton Focus, one of the things I think is really interesting about this is it's such a busy media market, and it's difficult to get city messages out sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll see a great initiative, and there'll be no pickup on that. Digital communications is essential to our ability to get our message out to the community. And let me give you an example. Our fire chief, Bill Boyce, I thought he took tremendous initiative and knocked on doors when we had that horrific basement fire that cost one of our residents their lives. And illegal basement apartments has become a difficult issue, and that awareness of going and knock on doors, I thought showed real initiative. But as much as our fire chief is energetic, in no world can he go and knock on every door in the city. He chose a neighborhood to go to, which, in a bigger scale of the city, might be 1% or less of the city. That's an example. We would want the city to know about why it's important to be legally compliant. I've noticed that some of your videos get 40,000 views. In that scenario, how would you have advised us to tell that story to the whole city?
Well, the media landscape has changed. In 2017, I think we won the Brampton Board of Trade Award for Best Communications. One of the things that I mentioned in my speech was the media, the message, Marshall McLuhan. That was a key thing, right? The message in the medium has changed. Where's your cell phone? Everything comes through this now. This is the biggest way that people get reached and get their news, get their information. Print is dying. We know that. That's why we set our model up years ago, Brampton Focus, to concentrate specifically on media. That's why we do the videos. Some of the videos we do get massive. I'll give you an example of the latest Ramadan speech by the Peel Regional Police, Chris McCord. He released that on YouTube. We took that YouTube video, put it on Brampton Focus, Neighborhood Watch. YouTube had 753 views. On our platforms that we created, it's up over 100,000. It's where you put that platform and how you market it that's essential. So the fire chief, when he went out and knocked on doors, if you take a few pictures, that's nice, but it doesn't go beyond a picture scenario. To be able to do that and have a video, it creates a lot more content, a lot more engagement as well. And that's what we are good at. It's like making a movie, right? When you make a movie, you have a writer, director, producer. The writer writes down his thoughts of how it can be done. The producer gets the equipment, but the director is the one that actually gets the vision out there. And that's very difficult to do. In 5 years, we have learned that. That's why our videos do so well. We get to the core of what's going on.
Now, we always look at municipalities around us and to look at ways that they're utilizing to get their message out. I noticed that the city of Mississauga, I think it's with Incalid, they have a partnership at Celebration Square in the city where they do messaging. Now, that's a Mississauga resident, and not to be competitive, because I know Brampton Focus has a lot more to offer, but what I was curious about was there I noticed the city of Mississauga was utilizing a community group to get messaging out. Can you tell us a little bit about what they've done in Mississauga and where there may be opportunities to learn from that initiative?
We don't really try to model ourselves after in Sauga or in Brampton, because for us, we do a hell of a lot more than what they do. We engage in, mayoral debates and interact with all sorts of organizations. They're more what would you say?
Top 5 things to do.
Yeah. They're not really engaged, but they're more basically, they're looking for revenue, right? A revenue stream in regards to drive people to their site. And if you go to their site, it's more ads, right? We're looking for more media engagement, media content, what's important to the residents of Brampton, how we can get that message out for other organizations, and how to get it out effectively and efficiently to the general population of what we're trying to get.
If I can add to that as well, so, there are a number of sites, I think BlogTO is probably the biggest one in the GTA, where their goal is to get a video out and get as many likes and shares as possible, so that you go back to their website and they can generate advertising revenue. We realized right away that advertising revenue on the web was all being taken by Google and Facebook. There's no point in trying to compete with them. And as a volunteer nonprofit community group, our goal is more community engagement. How do we get residents' voices out there, and how do we have that ongoing conversation? And how do we share that information? It's not, as I said in my talk, it's not about the number of likes or posts. We know if we wanted to get a video out there, you just put a little bit of money behind it on Google and Facebook, and you can reach hundreds of thousands of people. And then these social media platforms also, we think they exaggerate the reach, just so you keep pressing that boost button on their platforms. We know, we did the mayoral debate last fall. Obviously, Mayor, you were there. And we fill that room fairly easily because we now know what Bramptonians want. But we also know that there are a lot of niche organizations or niche markets in the city that you can't put on a site that's trying to reach everybody. You've got to reach them directly. And that, the Ramadan message from the Chief of Police, we put that on a number of places, and we're able to track which one is doing better. We actually put it on our Harmonize platform, which is our diversity and inclusion platform, and actually performed the poorest there. We have some ideas why, and they're not good answers. We know that the issue there is trying to bring groups together to talk about, as opposed to the silos we see in the city where you have various ethnic groups never talking to each other. And in this case, it was a religious group. I know Cheryl does a lot of work with the LGBTQ community. And Muslims and LGBTQ, or actually any faith group in LGBTQ, there's animosity. There's animosity between the LGBTQ groups and police. So that video didn't do well on that platform. But we also put it on another religious platform that we're involved with. And, that was recently started. It started off the week with 65 likes. I think by the end of today, it'll be at 1,000 likes. So that video did well there. On our Brampton Focus platform, we also changed the message a little bit depending on the audience. Brampton Focus reaches a diverse group, so we have to tone the message to reach the audience. So if we go back to the Chief's door knocking, that would work great on our Neighborhood Watch platform because that's what residents want to see. We've done a community safety video with distracted driving with Peel Police a few weeks ago. That was phenomenally successful on our Neighborhood Watch platform because the residents who have kind of signed up with Neighborhood Watch or follow us on social media, they want to see that. They're vested in the safety of the community, and they will share that message. So we have different avenues to share messages and to try to get it out there. We've rarely boosted things or put money behind it. All of our growth has been organic. We want to see what works, what doesn't work. We know that, if we did a video with the chief door knocking and you have a good conversation, you make it like 30 seconds or 60 seconds. If you put $100 behind that on Facebook, you'll reach tens of thousands of people with a video like that.
So, just out of curiosity, that's where it started. So when you see a group like Insaga get space at the City of Mississauga and use the Celebration Square for their events, and in fairness, they do interviews with the mayor and the chief of police and the fire chief there. It's not strictly top 5 foods, but when you see a for-profit group like that, what does that make you feel?
We've never felt animosity one way or the other. Our goal is to, we do this because, we've been doing it for 5 years. We do this because, we want to do it, right? It's not the end goal is to keep doing it, right? To get these guys to carry on when we're long dead and gone, right?
He's going first.
But that's why we have the students. We get the summer students, and Hural and Perry are back again. You know, that increased mode is, like I said, Brampton's, for us, it's a black hole. There's many opportunities, and opportunities are out there. And, you know, we love to do it.
we do make do with what we have, you know. If we had the opportunities that Insaga has with the city of Mississauga,
huge.
you know, at Celebration Square where they draw big crowds, you know, that's a huge opportunity to get in front of residents.
Would you welcome the opportunity to work closer with the City of Brampton Corporate Communications as we try to?
Yeah, we have no problem with that because we take a look at it from a different eye. Like I mentioned, the director, producer, and writer scenario, right? We've been doing it for 5 years. We know what works, what doesn't work. We see what comes out of communications. We'd be more than happy to do that. That would be great.
And the last question, I know we have a list coming in. The last question was on Neighborhood Watch. Sometimes when it comes to community safety, issues emerge quickly.
Yeah.
That we need to get the word out on. For example, we had the pedophile issue in the downtown where we actually had a photo and we wanted to make the community aware. We had an issue where we had an international syndicate that was stealing cars and literally taking them into containers, and we had information helping identify that. How quickly can you disseminate information to the public if we need, in a neighborhood watch situation, if you have neighborhood watch set up in a community, how quickly can we get that information out to the public when there's a sense of an urgent public safety issue?
So the delay is really getting the people in front of the camera. If we can get them in front of the camera, technology is changing so fast. You know, I know that the council was talking about 5G technologies. That's going to open up even more opportunities to get messages out. But, you know, the ability of video and the ability to have partnerships with all the media groups in Brampton would allow us, for example, let's say there's a crisis. Let's say we have another ice storm, you know, in the wintertime. You know, the last time we had an ice storm, we didn't really have social media live streaming the way we did. All the messages were probably coming from CP24. I don't know how they did that. Did the crew come in here? Like now, with the ability of our videos, our ability to reach, our ability to boost if we need to, and also the ability to share video to other media groups and have them reshare it without our branding, the possibilities are endless. And I think Brampton is one of those places, unlike anywhere else in North America, where we don't have the big media groups that Toronto has, and they're not being pushed to innovate. We have to, you know, try to get as much as we can with as little as we can. And so we have the opportunity to innovate and utilize some of these technologies to their fullest.
Well, put it this way. Last year, we had 2 students specifically working on a Neighborhood Watch app, something that could be integrated with police, fire, and emergency preparedness. So they started the basic groundwork last year. They're going to continue it again this year. They're 2 returning students, or university students, at the University of, is it Waterloo or Guelph? Anyway, they're smarter than me in that regard, so they can put together something like that. So that's something that we're working on as well. The other thing that we see, I mean, you know, you've got emergency preparedness this week, but the big screen is, you know, CP24, and all your community centers basically have a totally different way of having one central location to disseminate information to community centers, and the possibility of the emergency lighthouse initiative that you just put forward in churches and places of worships. Most of these have internet connections and they have screens. Integrating that as well through many organizations is a way to get the word out. So that's just something we see quickly off the board, saying, okay, if you're going to do it, I mean, this is a quick way to do it. If you go to a community center, this is what you'll see. If you go to a place of worship out near your lighthouse. So there's plenty of opportunities that we see that the city has and hasn't utilized.
Okay. We've got 3 questions: Councillor Vicente, Councillor Santos, and Councillor Williams. And for the, I'm going to ask, I've emailed to the city clerk a motion that I think would speak to how we could move this forward. And so for the purpose of the discussion, I'll ask the clerk when he has time to put that up on the screen, and then we can start questions and comments. Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a very proud founder of Brampton Focus back in 2015, I had the opportunity and saw firsthand the tremendous work done by this organization. As a member of the board, together with Councillor Santos, we did a tremendous amount of community engagement, and really, community engagement is really what it's all about. Folks, when we talk about community engagement, Brampton Focus and Neighborhood Watch, they're the real deal. They're the ones who recognized that there is a tremendous void in the city of Brampton with respect to media, and particularly with Neighborhood Watch, a deep need by members of the community to be able to organize and to take charge of their neighborhoods to enhance the safety of their neighborhoods and their homes, and also in working together. And so, you know, I can't say enough how proud we are of the work that Brampton Focus and Neighborhood Watch has done. When we here at this council, or councils from before, seek out and want the community to step up and to engage and to make Brampton a better city, I can't think of many more examples that are better than what Brampton Focus has done through their media work and, of course, through Neighborhood Watch. So, as you know, guys, you have my full support, and I look forward to the motion from the mayor, and look forward to listening to other comments from members of council. Thank you. Good work.
Okay, Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Brampton Focus Neighborhood Watch, thank you so much for coming to present today. I echo Councillor Vicente's comments. Incredibly proud to see you here as a former board member and co-founder as well of Neighborhood Watch Brampton. I want to say that, just to add to what Councillor Vicente said, is that specifically Dawn and Fazal, you persevered. I remember the past few years, we're no longer board members. We stepped down before the election, don't worry. And I remember at various meetings the frustration around the naysayers around Neighborhood Watch Brampton and Brampton Focus, but the both of you in particular, in support with the board members, persevered. And now you are here, and you have absolutely proven the importance and significance of this grassroots organization in our city. So incredibly proud. I do have one question, and that is, as you move forward, because Brampton is over 70% visible minorities, will there be consideration to language and translation and reporters and videos that are in different languages?
Yeah, so on one of the slides, one of the big building blocks that we have been hoping to do since last year was to have multiple language versions of the video. As many of you probably know, we rely on technology a lot. We rely on videos as a training tool for anybody who's interested in Neighborhood Watch. Before we even have a Neighborhood Watch meeting, there's a series of 5 videos that they go through, which kind of gets everybody up to speed. Those videos are in English, and we know there's a lot of seniors at home whose first language is not English, and they're key players in Neighborhood Watch because they're always looking out the door. They know exactly who's coming and going. So our goal is definitely to address the major languages in Brampton with new videos. I'm in all the videos right now. I don't want to be in the videos. We need to have community members in the videos. We need to have young people, old people, students, people who are working, we need a variety of people. Absolutely, that is a big to-do for Neighborhood Watch.
And we've had several people involved in Neighborhood Watch already, especially in 910, talk to us about being translators and get that message out as well. So these are things that are already on the table for us.
Wonderful, and that's another added benefit in any collaboration that we have with Brampton Focus and Neighborhood Watch moving forward. I look forward to the motion and certainly support it, and all of you, thanks so much.
Okay, Councillor Williams?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, thanks for coming and presenting today. You know, when it comes to Neighborhood Watch, it's nice to see it come back. I remember Neighborhood Watch being in Brampton 1984, I believe, and we had the sticker on our door. And as you walk around many neighborhoods, they still have the original sticker on the doors for Neighborhood Watch. And that just brings me back to a time where the community was so connected and engaged with each other And, there was this overall feeling of unity. And so I think one of my questions is, what does Neighborhood Watch do to bring people out of their doors, outside of town halls or education workshops?
So I'm not sure I quite understand the programs, the question. So what do we do outside of bringing people out to meetings?
Yeah, or social events. How does Neighborhood Watch engage the community just to get to know each other?
So, we rely on people contacting us. We know that if we start marketing what we do, we would be overwhelmed with the amount of people contacting us. And then they would expect us to kind of manage the whole process for them. We want to see that grassroots. We want somebody to contact us saying, there's something wrong with our neighborhood. Can you help us? Because now they're the ones driving it. So our goal is to go out and help that person. We've noticed in the last 2 years, the more we help, the less the local residents are engaged. So it's a balancing act that we are working with. I know in Mississauga, their previous program manager, who now is no longer there, they were constantly changing that to figure it out. But we do know that if we don't engage with these groups on a regular basis, they kind of fizzle away. I mentioned Snellgrove. Nikki was just a captain. She contacted us as a captain. Now she's on our board. We want to see people do that. We'd love to have more people on our board. But we can't tell them to do that. They have to want to do it. We go out to a lot of community meetings with a lot of you, and we hear a lot of stories about, burglaries and thefts and all that. And when I ask who's had their house broken into, 1 or 2 people might raise their hands. And the word kind of spreads around. It's like, the whole neighborhood is in chaos. And then, I'll get afterwards somebody come up to me and says, hey, well, can you contact me? I say, here's my contact information. I'm going to wait for you to contact me, and we'll take it to the next step. And you would not believe how many times that does not happen. So, so what we've now done, the app is one big way. People just want to know what's going on. And so if there's crime happening in their area, we'd be able to alert them. On their street, there's been an incident. So, we still have to work with the police to get real-time data, and I don't think we're ever going to get that, actually. But it means that a neighbor could actually say, you know what, I see somebody suspicious on the street, be on the lookout. As opposed to going on social media, and now it's this mentality where everybody kind of, you're showing photos of somebody who could just be walking with their dog on your street. So we want to localize it. We rely on social media to share a lot of this information, but we'd love to see every community like Snellgrove, where they now have their own Facebook group. Right. There's hundreds of people on their own Facebook group. We know that lots of communities have their own WhatsApp groups. We want to work with all of them. We're not dictating, here's how you should do it. And in fact, in the slide, I kind of pointed out, our goal is now to help build communities and add community prevention education on top of that, versus starting with crime prevention and trying to build a community on top of that. It's the other way around. Right. You have to have a neighborhood that's willing, and then you add the education on top of that.
Absolutely. And so, I think it's important that when we start looking at what builds a community or what makes a community break down, and what contributes to the silo effect that you've mentioned, we're at a state where many families both parents are working, lack of supervision in the home, so kids are left to find their own thing to do. But what's interesting is those kids that are usually wandering their neighborhoods, when there's 1 or 2 neighbors or residents that is taking stock of who all the kids are, and is willing to make a connection with the kids, and it gives the kids that sense of safety and security. And I don't know if other members of council have met some young people who said so-and-so has passed away, and I remember that person who would always stop me on my driveway and ask me where I'm going and what are you doing and who are you, So I'm wondering how Neighborhood Watch, if the city was to help, is going to help bring that message on what it means to be the neighborhood leader and how to be the neighborhood leader. Because I'm wondering if that may be what's missing, that piece on what does a neighborhood leader look like, and how can we get that message out there?
Well, I think a lot of, especially in 910, like you mentioned, a lot of parents are working. A lot of the aunts and uncles, they come over and basically they're babysitting the kids as both parents are working. That happens up a lot in 910. Punjabi community especially. And we've run into organizations, as I said, where they, the mothers and the fathers are there, and they're looking at the window, but they don't know about 911. They don't know about who they can call if they see something, and they're afraid. So that's where, we talk to the need for the Punjabi episode of Brampton or Neighborhood Watch as well, and to be able to get that message out. When we go to those communities for Neighborhood Watch launch, it's the whole community. I mean, it's everybody. They're very engaged to make sure that their community is safe, and that they love to have the police and interact with the police at the same time and talk to them. So they are a very engaged community. They want their families to grow up safe. So for us, it's when we do those type of community events, it's no problem getting them engaged. It's just the ability. They're very eager to learn what they can do and how they can do it, where other communities are not as engaged. So it's a matter of engagement, and because we're such a large, diverse community, 79 different ethnicities in Brampton, over 183 different languages, so we're quite diverse. It's trying to break down those barriers and distrust with the police, or distrust with, I don't want to call City Hall, I might get in trouble sort of thing. We hear that a lot. So it's a matter of education.
So how do you want the city to help? I know we have, we've spoken with Razneen Saeed. She has been very instrumental with building relationships with organizations in Brampton to build a community safety type platform. And so has there been any interaction with both of you?
Yeah, we've had conversations dating back to last year.
Awesome.
When Razneen took over or started this position. Up to this point, we haven't had what I would call a great relationship with the city. We're a nonprofit. We kind of come out to events when we're asked to come out. And sometimes we have to say no because they ask us the night before. We can't proactively go and try to make relationships with everybody. We'd love to do that. And so, we would, there were some issues last term of council when we were basically trying to get signs. We've moved on from there, right? There's no one key factor in making Neighborhood Watch successful. Signs would be great. It would let the neighborhood know that there's a program in the area. So it would help in that marketing. But we know we've kind of hit the point where if more people start contacting us and wanting us to come out, and we can't handle that. So we're not actively pushing the program. We know if we put a community safety video, I think next week we're meeting, there's a police event on road safety, and we're probably going to get 3 videos out of that. And this is a good time for them to do those videos. But if we put it on our Neighborhood Watch platform, we're going to get a lot of people contacting us. So if we have an established relationship with the city, we can now go to big sponsors in the city and say, we've got to look at this relationship. We can go to the Peel Police. Right now, we're not listed on the Peel Police Peel Police website.
We were, but then it came off.
They changed their website. We've delegated twice to the Police Services Board to get it on. They say they're going to get it on, and it's not on, and I don't know why. I can't really question that. But we've always gone there, and not being able to say the City of Brampton is a partner of Neighborhood Watch Brampton. If we had that, and then we had the resourcing behind that, more than just, a logo, it would make a huge difference in terms of how people view the program, how people view the relationship, how city employees can deal with us, how the police will deal with us. We've got a great relationship with the police, but everything can always be better.
And I completely understand that balancing act. You want to get the message out there, but then how are you going to deal with the onslaught of people who want to jump on board? And that's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem.
And so my final question is, we know healthy relationships in a community promotes healthy mental health. And, and we really do need to start building communities who work together, who are comfortable with coming out, meeting your neighbor, despite religion, despite race, and despite whatever. We need our communities to start coming out and being more aware of what's going on and get out the doors. So, I'm just wondering how, and I'm encouraged to see how the conversation goes and what comes out of the motion, because I'm really interested in knowing how the city can support Neighborhood Watch and what kind of work can be done with the Safety Advisory Committee in building some of those key platforms for what what a neighborhood watch leader can do. And what are some of the things outside of the box to encourage communities to come out? Maybe we're looking at having competitions for the best neighborhood, because I know back in Safe City, Brampton Safe City, they used to give awards to the best streets in the neighborhood. And that was all a part of, encouraging people to become less siloed. So I would really, looking forward to having a further conversation to see how we can start doing that.
Yeah, that was one thing that we didn't mention, but the city's safe
City.
What's it called? Safe,
The committee or Safe City
Oh.
Advisory.
Safe City Advisory Committee, thank you. He's the brains of the outfit. Safe Advisory Committee, that's something that we really didn't mention, but there's plenty of opportunities to cross-pollinate from one to the other, absolutely, 100%. Because we see obviously as an independent organization, we can move very quickly. We can mobilize, we could be doing a video shoot this afternoon, where the Safety Advisory Committee meets once a month, has to go through a whole process. The government gets bogged down in a whole bunch of minutia that sometimes it's, doesn't react as quickly as we can. And that's where, as an arm, we could actually be doing stuff as well, right?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
We have 5 more speakers on the list. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quick. Thank you, Don and Fazal and your team for coming in. In terms of naysayers, I was one of the naysayers before, but that's for other reasons, and you and I can talk about that offline. But congratulations on where you bring Brampton Focus and Neighborhood Watch to the state. It's great that you guys have been able to continue on. I'm glad that our Director of Bylaw is here, because with respect, I'm glad you brought that up, Fazal. A lot of people are up in arms that there's somebody breaking into all the cars, breaking into all homes, when you find out it's actually only a few. Most of our calls do come through our office that aren't really in respect to breaking and entries. It's more in respect to this dispute between neighbors. And I think part of that is because, as Councillor Williams pointed out, that neighbors don't know neighbors. So I'm hoping that in the report that comes back, we can also include our bylaw, because I can tell you, our bylaws are out there probably 3 or 4 times a day, dealing with neighbors over fence issues, dealing with neighbors over noise, dealing with neighbors over renters, illegal basement apartments. So if you can, with your program, Neighborhood Watch and Brampton Focus can help us as council get that stuff cleaned up, because these guys have got better things to do than going to talk to 2 neighbors disputing. If just through your programs, it would be fantastic. Through street parties, Nikki, there's been some great street parties up in the Snowgrove area. Fantastic parties up there.
Sometimes she speaks too much.
And I'm hoping that this is part of from Nikki's work up there, is because we get very few calls from the Snowgrove area. So maybe we can give you some areas where we've got a lot of issues in, and maybe you can.
Yeah, that's not a problem. The other thing is engagement. I mean, you mentioned, bylaw, people still call 911 when they, pizza doesn't come. So it's like, sometimes you're dealing with people that you just can't get through to.
I'm hoping the report can come back, that you'll work with staff and work with these guys to come up with some ideas on how we can do it, because they are probably 75% of our calls that come to our office are disputes between neighbors.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Good job, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Williams, for being brief with questions. Given the fact the list has just grown, Councillor Williams has now set the new gold standard of how to ask questions quickly. Thank you, Doug. Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
No pressure.
Thank you through the mayor, and as I guess in Councillor Williams' terms, as a previous yaysayer and future yaysayer, I will say that anecdotally, Neighborhood Watch, when they came to my neighborhood, it was amazing to see the engagement. To see not only neighbors knock on doors who led the initiative and then exchange phone numbers, and then after to that meeting that which was held at the Brampton Curling Club, it was just amazing to see the engagement, see neighbors come together. I got to meet many neighbors I didn't know personally, and now the way that we're in communication and I will say monitoring, ensuring the community is working together. And I will say, just for my fellow colleagues, I was amazed to see how neighbors reacted to the fact that the city previously didn't have that support that I think Neighborhood Watch deserved. So thank you for coming forward, and I will say that it's much more needed now than any time, so thank you very much.
Well, I will say also that during the launches of the Neighborhood Watch, all the councillors, regional and city councillors, are always invited to make sure that the residents know who they are, because sometimes they don't know who the original city councilors are.
Thank you, Councilor Maderos. Councilor Singh.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank Brampton Focus, and I had the opportunity to attend a meeting with you in the Gore Meadows Community Center, and I liked the approach. It was genuine. I remember you asked a question there too, how many people have had any break-in and enters, because it was around break-in and enters, and ironically, nobody put their hand up. And so, but the safety tips you gave and everything were very valuable. So I do see a lot of value in this program, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of this report back. Thank you.
Councilor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you both for coming. Thank you to all your members for coming. Thank you to Councilor Vincente, who it sounded a lot like he was tooting his own horn. So we're talking about relationship, and we've mentioned a couple times, or you've mentioned a couple times, about the relationship from the past, and I think it's fair to say that it was a two-way street back then, but we're talking here about the future, and I'm glad that you have come first of all today to ask for kind of that a better relationship and a better future for both organizations. There is certainly the lack of, since Rogers Cable 10 is no longer around, when they were covering everything in Brampton when I was a kid, and you guys have, it seems from an outsider looking in, you guys are sliding really nicely into that picture of what they were back then when I was playing baseball and they were at the game, and I was just, in an all-star game or something like that, and and they're there taking pictures, and I can see that to be some sort of future for you guys. And we've never talked about it, but we can certainly identify with the fact that there's a little bit of artistic talent that goes along with Brampton Focus, and I'm glad, Don, you mentioned that. It's not you, it's the people behind you, the people behind them, because not a lot of companies, not a lot of organizations are thinking about that far in the future, because they're only as good as you are, and it'll only last as good as they are.
Yep.
So I'm glad you're here today. Let's put the past behind us. Let's move on and start building a relationship that ultimately is exactly what we all want. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Palashi, in terms of tooting your own horn, are you telling us that you played in the All-Star game as a little leaguer?
As a little leaguer, yeah. Didn't everybody? I thought everybody was asked to play.
Councilor Dillon.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I've had an opportunity over the past few years to work with, through you, Mr. Mayor, Neighborhood Watch, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. When I grew up, we had Neighborhood Watch. We had the Neighborhood Watch signs, and the little street that I grew up on in Windsor, it was almost like a village. We knew everybody. In those days, you didn't have a babysitter, you can just take them to somebody's house. And times have changed since then. In some countries as well, the villages, they're so tight-knit that they have their own security going around at night. And so that gives comfort to the residents who live within those areas. And through Neighborhood Watch, what I've personally seen is that neighborhoods have mobilized themselves. I'm part of a number of different groups that you've worked with. I'm part of their groups, and so whereas they never knew each other before, they all know each other now, and they know what to look out for to keep their neighborhood safe. And to me, that's something so great, because you guys are just residents of Brampton, and you're helping your fellow residents out, and I think that's something to be commended. And I haven't really seen that in other municipalities the way you guys do it. In terms of Brampton Focus as well, I haven't seen that anywhere else the way you guys have brought this up from the ground up. Whereas a lot of people look to Brampton Focus now to really find out what's going on. You guys have essentially become the pulse, or you're the pulse. You have an eye on the pulse of what's going on. And so, without a question, 100%, I do support this motion. But I do have to ask a question. I hope it's not an uncomfortable question. Just because if one of my residents was to ask me this, I'd like, I'd at least have something to poke them on. What do we say to assure, a taxpayer or any resident who might look at any type of political connection to this? How do we, what response would we give to them?
Like, that we are a political organization?
No, just perhaps maybe if somebody had run before, if somebody wants to run in the future, or perhaps even
We can't
any
stop people
councillors
from
with
running.
connections. No, I understand that.
But, the thing is, this is a label, like, we were labeled, like, when we started, we were a political organization because the people that founded Brampton Focus all ran in the 2014 election. The reason that we decided to get involved was because basically we saw the lack of coverage. And we encountered that lack of coverage, not only in the political arena, but as well in the social arena that was going on. So we had 2 board members that basically decided to run, but they were actively engaged in the community, and that's one of the reasons why, I could ask you the same reason, why did you decide to run? Because you wanted to make Brampton a better city, and you were actively engaged in making the city better. We are the same thing.
If I could add to that, we have never turned away anybody who approached us to say, can I come on your show, or can you do an interview with me regarding topic X, Y, or Z? And I think, our body of work speaks for itself. We have tried so hard to not be political. Yes, we are constantly interviewing politicians, but it's politicians of all stripes. I'll make commentary, but at the end of the day, and I know I'll be very specific, I wrote an article saying why our current mayor shouldn't be elected before the election.
That was him, not me.
As a commentary. I'm so thankful that I was wrong, because I think our mayor's doing a fantastic job. To be honest, I think all of you under his leadership is doing a phenomenal job compared to the last 8 years or so. But we say we all have political background, not political background, but we all have our own personal affiliations. And nobody, I'm not going to speak for them, but whatever you want to say it. We want to do it in a respectful way. And if there's somebody else later on who wants to counter that, come on. We want that debate. We want that dialogue, because that's the only way I think the city can move forward, is by having the conversation that we're having here. We'd love to see all delegates come in here. Like, for example, the Brampton Beast getting funded last term. We want that debate. We don't want a decision being made and then people are now, coming up with stories why that decision was made. If there's an issue here, we'd love to clear the air. I'm thankful to Councilor Pelletier for saying that. Let's forget about the past. And if he can do that, I think the rest of you, that was the biggest contentious issue, and it's all based on signs, right? So I think our body of work speaks for itself. If there's a specific issue, raise it publicly. We'll, complain to you and ask us.
Well, the basic thing is most people actually want to hear from their elected representatives. They don't hear from them that often. When you're doing, you're going to an event, you're basically taking a selfie, and that's it. That's all they hear about it. Our goal has always been to expand that by asking you to come on and talk about it. We never make a judgment call. The judgment call comes every 4 years for politicians, where the residents will make that decision whether you get reelected or not. Our job is to make sure the information is out there and the ability for you guys to be able to connect with the residents. That's what we've done on a regular basis.
And so I really appreciate the response. I'm glad you expanded on it. Like, I knew that already, but I thought it was important that our residents know as well. And so, again, thank you. And I'd also like to plug that in grade 9, Rogers covered my basketball final for high school. No, it wasn't. It was just the finals. We lost, but it was covered, so I got to watch it.
Seeing that there's no more speakers, we have a motion on the floor I've amended it, the clerk's advice, for June 12th to give staff adequate time. I would note Councillor Williams made the suggestion that we could create a reporting mechanism to the Safe City Committee to have Neighborhood Watch update, have that formal relationship. We can look at all that in the report. I think there's time to, we don't need to get into specifics today. And I would note that in terms of sort of being nonpartisan, in the case of Councillor Santos and Vicente, they left the board when they got into the political fray. I think it would be well understood that you pick a lane, and when you're in the media, you're in a separate lane. And I would note, Councillor Vicente showed me a photo from years ago when I did an interview when I was in provincial politics in 2015 with Brampton Focus, and it was Councillor Vicente making all the arrangements with the tech equipment. So welcome to the success you've had with getting a new media off the ground, which is difficult, but you've certainly done it well here. So I think the motion is self-explanatory. I had staff report back on this potential relationship, and seeing no other speakers. All those in favor? Okay, recorded vote.
Just push the buttons.
Push the buttons. Are the buttons working? Can you see mine? Is it registered?
All members have voted?
Both our lights were down.
The motion carries unanimously, 10-0, Mr. Mayor.
Very good.
Thank you.
For being here today.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along. Is there another 10 minutes worth of? Oh, a motion to receive the delegation moved by myself, second by Councillor Santos. All those in favor? Motion carries. And just to hear from the clerk, I guess the AMP's presentation will take some time.
No, it's just housekeeping.
Okay. Okay, it's moved by Councillor Willens, that your signature is on it, not legible, but it is yours, I'm told. Councillor Bowman, the report from Peter Fay, the housekeeping changes to administrative monetary penalty system, ANTS bylaw, and screening officer, hearing officer bylaw be received. All those in support, motion carries. Item 9.3 was considered as part of the delegation. So was 9.4 as part of the consent motion. 9.5 is part of the consent motion. 9.6 is part of the consent motion. Yeah. Should we just do the minutes? Okay. I have a motion. Councillor Plushy's hungry. We are at item 11, committee reports or minutes. We have two committee reports in the form of minutes on today's agenda. Under Council's meeting procedures, the committee or section chair introduces the committee report or minutes and summarizes the matters considered and now brought forward to the council today for ratification. Councillor Vicente, you chaired the Planning and Development Committee, which met on April 29th. The committee minutes are here for council approval. I now pass the chair to you to lead council in the consideration of the committee minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of council, you have before you the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee for April the 29th, 2019. Do any members have any questions with regards to the minutes?
Seeing none.
Move it back to you, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion from Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Medeiros, to approve the committee minutes. All those in favor? Motion carries. Committee of Council met on May 1st. The committee minutes are here for council approval. I will now pass the chair to the respective section chairs in order of consideration during the committee meeting. To lead council in the consideration of the committee recommendations, Councillor Dillon chaired the Economic and Development and Culture section. Councillor Singh chaired the Corporate Services section. Councillor Vicente chaired the Public Works and Engineering section. Councillor Santos chaired the Community Services section. Council then will consider a motion to approve the recommendations in its entirety after all section chairs have concluded their summaries and any resulting council questions or debate has finished. Councillor Dillon?
Oh, are you passing the chair on to me? The minutes are before council for the Economic Development and Culture section. Do any members have any questions or comments to make?
Seeing none. Councillor Singh, for Corporate Services?
Before you, the minutes from member services on May 1st. Do any members have questions or comments on the committee minutes and recommendations? Seeing no
none.
further questions or comments, Mayor Brown, I return the chair to you.
Councillor Vicente chaired Public Works and Engineering.
Do any members have any questions with regards to the Public Works and Engineering section for the Committee of Council from May 1? Seeing none, back to you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Santos?
Thank you. Do any members have any questions or comments regarding Community Services section from Committee of Council on May 1st? Seeing none, back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I have a motion from, this is for the referred matters list. I have a motion from Councillor Willens, seconded by Councillor Medeiros for the committee minutes. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Referred matters list. This list is published quarterly on the meeting agenda, and a copy is linked with each agenda, including a current listing of matters referred to the city staff for further review and a report back to the council or committee. Do any members have questions related to the referred matters list? I have a motion from Councillor Willen, seconded by Councillor Bowman. All those in favor? Motion carries. You go fast when you want to eat. No. Sir? Councillor Singh, you have a question? You want to recess for lunch? To 12:30? We're going so fast. Okay. Looking for council. Do you want to go another 9 minutes, or do you want to break for lunch?
Can we do public question period, just so anybody here for public questions have to wait till we come back?
Yes. If that's the will of council? Public question? Okay.
Hello, I'm Sylvia. So it was talked about using the poll questions from the town halls for when I believe it was going to FCM, I think it's Councillor Singh. I was wondering if council knows the limitations of surveys like that, like what problems there's with sampling.
Yes, I think members of council are aware of the limitations.
That is completely unrepresentative of the city.
I think everyone here understands the various forms of sampling and the limitations, advantages, strengths, disadvantages. I know Councillor Santos is going to have to leave early today, just to make sure we don't miss it. One item can we just deal with and then break for lunch? It's the LGBTQ item, which was 17.4. Do I have discretion just to, I think it's a quick, just that the Toronto Pride, it's a move by myself and Councillor Santos, that as we know, we pride ourselves on being an inclusive community, that there are other communities that participate in the Toronto Pride parade each year. It's one of the largest international Pride events where we celebrate love being love is love. And the deadline is approaching, the deadline actually passed to participate. But Councillor Santos knows a few of the organizers and thinks that we might be able to get in, the city of Brampton get in if we ask quickly. Would there be any opposition to that? So all those in favor? Motion carries. Now, with council's discretion, can we allow Councillor Pelletier to eat? Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, come back at 12:30. Yeah. back at council, and I'm sure members of council who are still finishing their lunch will hear us talking, and they'll be back in the room shortly. But we do have quorum with Councillor Williams, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Willens, Councillor Vicente, and Councillor Santos. And in the goals of being respectful of everyone's time, we will proceed. The next item on the agenda is the item that I put forward in regards to the inaugural Brampton Charity Half Marathon. For the last number of months, we've been meeting with Elliot Kerr from the Landmark Group, which runs the Mississauga Half Marathon and Full Marathon. The Mississauga Marathon now raises $300,000 for charity, and they get 13,000 runners. The way it was presented to us is that in this partnership with the City of Brampton, I envision the partnership being the first year to get them off the ground, but it's a major asset for a city to have a half marathon. To have an official half marathon, there's international timings that are recorded. There are certain protocols that have to be followed, and runners from all over will come. If you look at the Mississauga Marathon, it's not just Mississauga residents. Over half of them will be residents from elsewhere. I look at the Hamilton, around the bay. It's been around for 135 plus years, and you literally can't get a hotel room that weekend. People are booking 50 kilometers out of the city if you get it right. The organizers from the Mississauga Marathon believe it's achievable to do this year if they get the go-ahead now. There's two things in particular that we've, with city event staff and myself, as we've been meeting with them, there's two things that I asked for and I wanted to share with you that I think are important that would make this unique. A lot of the marathons that happen around the country support national charities. A request we made, if the city's helping get you off the ground, was that I want it to be local charities. And so the way it works, when a runner signs up, they will pick which charity they're supporting. So we're not dictating where it goes, it's the runners that choose the causes they believe in. And if you look at whether it's the Knights Table or the Boys and Girls Club, there's so many great local charities that we could, or Free Fall Foundation that we could rally behind. And so that got me really excited about one of the advantages. The second thing is they made the comment that in Mississauga, what worked well is they worked with their tourism department to look at how they could highlight the city. We originally gave them a running route that was a little bit bland, sort of using major roads. What they said worked well in Mississauga is you need a wider start point so that all the runners start at the beginning. But what they really believe is good for a city is that you take runners who aren't from Brampton and show them beautiful parts of the city. And say they would design the route with us. And so you could take runners through Churchville or Huttonville, take them to parts of the city that are not well known. And so I think that would be an exciting attribute from a tourism perspective. And so this would be a tourism asset. It would also be an asset for local charities. And frankly, we are all aware that one of the challenges we have in Brampton is the rate of diabetes. And I think it's part of our responsibility as civic leadership to really do whatever it takes to encourage a healthier, more active community. And this will be a challenge to the city to say, start preparing for this inaugural Brampton Half Marathon. Councillor Paleshi has already told me that he is game to run in the half marathon, participate, and help us with the organization. Councillor Santos has obviously very keen as she's a runner herself, but we thought we could do a community run leading up to it in every ward in the city and encouraging people to participate. And so I think this is just going to be wonderful. The inaugural run would be this fall, but the ask from the organizers was that we would take on the sponsorship that they're seeking so that they can get the ball rolling. They'll take care of the rest of it. But then to put on a run, they're looking at about $300,000. But the title sponsorship is the $50,000, and it could be in kind or financial. But that would be to get the ball rolling. The fact that we're going to raise hundreds of thousands for charity, the fact that this is going to be a tourism attribute, I think it's a no-brainer to help get this started. It would be good for the city of Brampton. I've been pushing different groups to look at this for the last 6 months, as I think it's a glaring omission of events in the city. And so I think this is good news. They're willing to do it this year. We don't need to wait till next year. We can do it this fall, and that's why I put the item forward, seconded by Councillor Santos and Paleshi. There's a few comments. Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing this forward. I would support something like this. I'm glad to see that it's local charities that they have a choice from. Doing work with. I'm glad to see with HCI we do a lot of work we're fighting diabetes now, so this is a good thing that we are fighting, as well as Peel Memorial Center for Integrated Health and Regen as well. The challenges that all these people face. Just a quick question to you: did you get my email or text about Dr. HVAC, Brendan Aldrich, because he does the Professors League one, sponsors it every year, and it's very successful.
Yes, and so I have the contact information, and the Mississauga team that does these marathons says that they do the Oakville one as well. They said they would involve any local organizers that would help facilitate this.
Okay, because Brendan he is a runner as well himself, so great. Good, thanks very much.
Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So obviously support this and advocate for healthy and active lifestyles and everything that this represents. I'm going to put out a challenge to all of council that we lead the pack of the marathon this year and also include the senior management team in that as well. So tie your laces up and let's start training next week.
I can see our fire chief nodded somewhat. So, Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you, through the mayor. I guess just a clear. First of all, thank you, Mayor, and the respective councillors for bringing this forward. Would this include a component of walking as well? So, because I know in a lot of marathons I participated in, is usually running or /walk. So I know there's a lot of groups that I participated with who. They walk as well, and it really, brings a community atmosphere out there. So I'm not sure if walking would be a component of the marathon.
The organizers said that they will work with us to, they mentioned that the city of Mississauga does a 5K, Hazel's 5K.
Yeah.
And so they've incorporated that into their event. If there's interest in having a 5K, right now they'd be looking at a 10K and a half marathon. Okay. But I don't think it would be difficult to ask them to do a 5K walk if that was something that we thought would be a benefit. I forgot to mention too, they would include the City of Brampton logo on the shirts and our tourism brochure and all the runner packages.
Yeah, and just through the mayor, and that's just a minor point, but I know people with disabilities and seniors groups, they've come out to these marathons 7-8 years ago. I participated in many half marathons, and the tourism aspect, the impact, and just putting your city on the map for every reason that the councillors already talked about. It's an amazing, and it's over. It's about time that we got it. So thank you for your leadership.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I support Councillor Medeiros' comments. I think this needs to be fully accessible to all to be able to participate. So this year I had a wonderful opportunity to go down to Florida actually and watch my aunt compete in what's known down there as the Dobie, which is a 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon on Saturday, full marathon on Sunday. And she did every single one. And it was emotional and spectacular. But when I was also down there, I took my oldest daughter, Emma, and she competed in a kids mini marathon. So what I'm kind of getting at is, we ask our residents to be healthier and involved in their community, and I think that this is a good start to leading the charge. So I thank the mayor for doing some of the work on this. Proud to have my name here beside Councillor Santos, who I know is an avid runner, I also take up the challenge, and I've been running every morning to make sure that I'm in top physical form for this half marathon.
When do you start?
I don't know why that's so funny. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Brent, for, building this bridge for our community to have such an amazing opportunity to not only get healthy, but also be put on the map. And I'm extremely encouraged because we have so many beautiful sites in Brampton that needs to be seen by many more people. And I'm just to echo some of my colleagues' points around making this an inclusive race. I think it would be really great for us to encourage that, especially a kids marathon, or even a marathon where it's a walk and roll type of theme. And I absolutely take up the challenge, Councilor Santos. I used to run quite a bit, and I miss it, and I'm gonna start running tonight and getting put my app on and get myself training. So this is very encouraging, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and just to really close by saying, a successful half marathon in a community can transform the city for a weekend. It has so many positive attributes, and I think the first year will be tough. It always is. And we've set a goal of 2,000 runners for the first year. There's no reason this can't turn into 13,000 runners like they have in Mississauga a few years from now. The first year is the challenge. I think if all of us participate and help promote it and get the word out, it's going to be a big success, and maybe we'll exceed our expectations, but this will be a lasting benefit to the city that will become an event that people put on their calendars. So all those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we have the item added by Councillor Singh. Is that our 17.3? 17.6. Oh, okay, yes, I don't have a form for that. So, Councillor Palashi, planning applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it was recently brought to my attention that, set a little bit of the stage here, given the changes in legislation, I think it was last term, the end of last term, applicants and staff did a presentation if they wanted to do a presentation on an application that came to the planning portion of the public portion of our planning meetings. Now, I guess, through maybe the clerk's office or the planning department, there's been another change where applicants are no longer required to give a presentation at all. And it's only city staff to come before the public to present on an application at the public portion. Can I get just a clarification on that? Is that accurate? I'm looking at our new commissioner, but I know it's not.
Perhaps through you, Mr. Chair, I'll start, and then maybe the commissioner may want to, or former acting commissioner may want to pipe in. The previous term, and before the LPAT rules came into effect, the Brampton practice was to allow both the city to present at a statutory public meeting as well as the applicant. With the new LPAT rules and the no longer requirement if there is something appealed, it's not a de novo hearing, you're actually hearing everything as it went through the approval process. The position that the city took was staff would do a presentation, but as part of the chair's remarks, the chair will always invite the applicant, if they so choose, to come forward to make a presentation. It is at the applicant's discretion should they wish to come forward. And that's the process that the city's following right now.
That's the process. So,
Yep.
so I just had a meeting with an applicant yesterday, and they told me that they were told that they were not going to be presenting to a public meeting coming forward. And they sought clarification on that item 4 times.
Through you,
And now they're going to do a 5th time because I nearly fell off my chair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if there is a upcoming statutory public meeting, The process, as I understand that will occur, is city staff will provide a presentation, if it's a private application, and then the applicant or agent for that private development will be afforded the opportunity, should they so choose to accept that, to make a presentation on their proposal.
So that was implemented last term when the changes of LPAT. We have not changed that since then?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have, since the LPAT rules came into effect, this is the process that we've put in place. So the same opportunity is afforded to a private applicant to make a submission at a statutory public meeting on their application. The previous, couple of terms ago, it was almost a requirement. Now it is discretionary, and it's still available to the applicant, but it's their decision should they wish to present or not.
Okay, so the last comment of clarification through to Rick. Are we telling applicants that they're not to make a presentation before the public at the planning meetings?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not to my knowledge, but do you have any context around the type of application? Is it a city-initiated application?
It is not a city-initiated application.
Because that would be a circumstance that I would think
Yes.
would give rise to that kind of a response. If that's not the case, then there may be a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. And so I would certainly ask that the applicant maybe come and see myself, and we'll seek out the correct path for them to make a presentation should they wish at the public meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pellecci. Our next item is Councillor Singh.
Yeah, so there was some issues. I had students reach out from Sheridan College in their ability to get the UPass approved. And so recently the town of Oakville sent a resolution to us and the city of Mississauga for UPass to write a letter to the province. And so I'll just show the motion on the floor. Do you have a copy of it? Yeah, so it'll be similar to the town of Oakville, so just go through it quickly. So whereas Sheridan College is one of Ontario's leading post-secondary institutions with over 40,000 full-time, continuing and part-time students attending campuses in Brampton, Oakville, and Mississauga, whereas UPass programs provide access to unlimited public transit to students at multiple campuses across Ontario in conjunction with local transit providers, whereas the provincial government's unfair policies around optional student fees and the Student Choice Initiative are causing Sheridan College students to lose access to deeply discounted transit U-passes despite students having voted in a referendum in November 2018 to support the implementation of a U-Pass program at Sheridan College. Whereas municipal staff and representatives of Sheridan College and the Sheridan Student Union have been working towards implementing the U-Pass in Brampton, Oakville, and Mississauga for numerous years, and we're in the process of finalizing the necessary arrangements. Whereas other U-Pass programs in the province have been allowed to continue, whereas a Sheridan College U-Pass program would improve access to transit for students, reduce traffic congestion on roads, and support public transit across all of the municipalities involved. Whereas the town of Oakville has recently passed a similar resolution that requested the city of Brampton and the city of Mississauga support their endorsement for this resolution. Be it resolved that the province of Ontario be requested to modify its rules to allow the Sheridan College U-Pass program to proceed, and that this resolution be forwarded to the town of Oakville, city of Mississauga, Sheridan College, and the Sheridan Student Union to show Brampton support endorsement of this resolution, and that the resolution be forwarded to the MPPs of Halton and Peel as well as the Minister of Training, Colleges, and Universities in order to seek their support for the changes. And the seconder, I believe, is Councillor Vicente. Oh, Vicente. Oh yeah, Medeiros. It's Sheridan College's Councillor Medeiros' area. And we have the motion in front of us, and I would like council support.
Okay, Councillor Pellecci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Singh, for bringing this forward. So I worked on this with Councillor Adams out of Oakville last term. From my understanding, everything was going fine. What seemed to happen? So it was a provincial initiated. How could they have pulled it? From my understanding, it was caught in the registration fees of the students and. Had nothing to do with the province. So your mics aren't on. So can I hear from Transit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it was a provincial decision.
Yes, it was.
What stake did the province have in this? I don't recall them providing any funding for the UPass.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure about the funding, but what the goal of the pass would be revenue neutral. So in order for it to be affordable for both, creating the pass, the goal of being at revenue neutral, that would be the first aspect. The second aspect would be if it was not revenue neutral, it would cost too much in order for students to use it. The fees would be too high.
So the province has the ability to take this away because it was in addition to the tuition? Is that part of the tuition went to the UPass? Is that how he was able to take this?
Maybe I can help Councillor
Thank
Pelletier. The Premier did a video criticizing how student dues support student union activities that he believed were causes that he couldn't support. He didn't like the activism of student unions. What came out afterwards was that, and the reason a lot of communities have campaigned and rallied against this, is support for LGBTQ communities, mental health programs, and the student union, the student UPass, are all collateral damage on this provincial order. So many municipalities have advocated on this. It raised a lot of media in Ottawa, in particular, where the campuses there really depend on it. And so I think Councillor Singh's motion is very appropriate to add Brampton's voice to the chorus against what was a short-sighted decision.
Yeah, and I agree with it 100%. I wasn't under the impression that they actually had that power. I thought it was more of the Sheridan College in partnership with the municipalities. And when I worked on this 4 years ago, Alex, with you and Councillor Adams, I don't remember Mississauga being at the table.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, this has been an ongoing, for the last couple of years, we've been negotiating with the student union to do a joint UPass program across all three campuses with Brampton, Mississauga, and Oakville, because there's a Sheridan campus in each one of the jurisdictions. Sheridan really wanted the ability for students to be able to use the UPass through all three jurisdictions without paying additional fares. We did a trilateral agreement in principle between the three jurisdictions of how we would apportion the revenues of that. Part of the UPass program is only successful when every student that registers as part of their tuition fee, they pay this UPass program. With the provincial government's powers that they have under that jurisdiction, they decided to remove and have any student able to opt out of any parts of the tuition program. So by doing that, what they did is any existing contracts, they remain intact and will respect, but in new contracts, they won't. So for the student union, understanding that with the province now, and they've lobbied the province as well, they know that this contract can't go forward. And because of that reason now, Oakville, as Councillor Singh has mentioned, tabled a resolution to the province, and we're seeking here a resolution to endorse that as well, to hopefully put some pressures on the province to allow the Sheridan UPass program to go forward.
So then at any point did it go as far as the student body to whether accept or decline that portion, that additional portion in their tuition? Did it go that far?
So through the mayor, the student body had to go to a referendum, and in the past years that we've negotiated with Sheridan, that was voted down. This year it was voted in. The student body's majority wanted a UPass program. So as we started going, then the provincial government came up with this announcement to opt out. And knowing that the opt-out clause is there, we can't go forward with it because of the financial cost of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Singh?
Just for clarification, so we were actually kind of getting closer to getting a UPass, if I'm not mistaken. And then the changes came from the province and the Student Choice Initiative, and that's what sort of derailed this process.
And through the mayor, absolutely, to Councillor Singh, we actually had agreement in principle in place with Sheridan College, agreement in principle with Oakville and Mississauga, and we were ready to report back to our council to get the authority to execute the agreement and to talk about how that UPass program looked like. Unfortunately, after the student body went for this and wanted it, and we're all in agreement, the province came out now with that. So the timing was very poor for us. It impacted Sheridan more than it impacted us, but it certainly would have helped to accommodate all the students within all three jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All those, Councillor Williams, do you have a? All those in favor? Motion carries. We've already dealt with public question period. So we're now at the portion of the meeting dealing with the adoption of city bylaws to give effect to council decisions made at this meeting and previous meetings. I have a motion by Councillor Bowman, second by Councillor Willens, to approve bylaws 90 to 2019 to 101 2019. All those in favor? Motion carries. Our next item of business is item 21, closed session business. I have a motion from Councillor Willens, seconded by Councillor Bowman, to move into closed session to deal with the following items. Notice to file closed session, February 20th. Notice to file closed session, City Council, April 24th. A proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board appointment of administrative monetary penalty system. Screening officers and hearing officers. Security of the property of the municipality or local board or a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried out on or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. All those in favor of going to closed session? Motion carries. So upstairs in the boardroom in 5 minutes. 6th floor boardroom, 5 minutes. The meeting is now, so the meeting was recessed to go into closed session business, and so now returned. Closed session is completed. Council will reconvene in public session in the council chambers to complete its business on today's agenda, including reporting out on any actions arising from its closed session portion of the meeting, passing and confirming bylaw and decisions from this meeting, and adjourning the meeting. In the continuing interest of transparency and open government, I will report in the public session any outcomes from today's closed session business. As a result of our closed session today, I wish to report the following. 21.1, this note to file was acknowledged by council. 21.2, this note to file was acknowledged by council. 21.3, this item was considered in closed session and direction was given, including direction to consider the following motion in public session. Okay. This, a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Vicente, seconded by Councillor Palashi. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. 21.4, this item was considered in closed session. Direction was given to staff. 21.5, this item was considered in closed session. Direction was given to consider the following motion in public session. Okay, we need a mover and seconder. Mover and seconder, Councillor Vicente, Councillor Willens. All those in favor? Motion carries. I also have a motion from Councillor Santos and Councillor Willens. The following bylaw before council at its 21.6. Okay. So 21.6, the direction was given to staff. And 21.7, the direction was given to staff. And now we have the final is moved by Councillor Santos, second by Councillor Willens. The following bylaw before council at its regular meeting of May 8, 2019 be given required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the mayor and given to the city clerk and the corporate seal affixed thereto to approve the agreement of purchase and sale for the purchase of 2591 Boulevard Drive West, to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held on May 8, 2019. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Our last item of business is item 23, adjournment. Thank you, members, for your respectful consideration. We got a lot done today. Council is next scheduled to meet on Wednesday, May 22nd at 9:30 a.m. and Wednesday, June 6th at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion by Councillor Willen, seconded by Councillor Bowman to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? You want to record a vote? Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries.